Hi, Lawrence Neal here. Welcome back to High Intensity Business, the podcast where we discuss high intensity strength training and provide you with the tools, the tactics, and the strategies to help you grow your strength training business. To download and read the transcript for this episode, please go to highintensitybusiness.com, search for episode 367, and you can find the transcript download button there. And you'll also get access to lots more free resources to help you grow your business. The topic of today's podcast, I'm really excited about. We're going to be diving into the app for strength training businesses called the Strength Portal. Today's guest is Matt McGunagle. Matt's graduated from Cal Poly SLO as an econ major with a concentration in entrepreneurship. I should say Matt is also the founder of Strength Portal. That's kind of important. His younger brother went to Cal Poly SLO as well for kinesiology with the goal of becoming a strength coach and personal trainer, which taught Matt everything he knows about health and fitness. Matt and his brother fell in love with coaches like Dan John, Eric Cressy, and Tony Gentlecourt in high school and college. I love this bio, by the way, Matt. It's very exciting to read. Matt saw an opportunity to build a software platform for trainers. He started the business in 2013-14 with a few friends, got into an accelerator, which I believe is like an investment situation, is it, where you get a few investors on board?
Yeah. So essentially, they get a bunch of startups together. They take like 7% of the business. You get a little bit of money, you get a whole bunch of resources, and you just kind of just do nothing but work for about 3 to 4 months straight.
So then you built version 1 with that assistance, scaled it a bit, but decided to shelve the business because it wasn't a good platform or sustainable, which was due to a combination of building in the wrong direction with focusing on trainers going online, which was sort of early, as you say here, and an unscalable platform as well. And then you went to work for a freelance software development company for several years, got a lot more reps, excuse the pun, and no pun intended, and experience. And then you took that freelance income and rebuilt Strength Portal 2.0 in 2017. And then you moved from the Bay Area to San Diego and have since had quite a bit of success signing up Equinox for all locations in 2018. Congratulations. Belated congratulations. And then you added partner integrations with MindBody in 2020, and then more recently working with Discover Strength in 2021, who my audience all know and love, who are continually growing very fast. So it's an exciting future. And I love the story because you clearly had a little bit of a bumpy road and some minor failures on the way, which, makes for a better story, and I'm sure has turned you into a better entrepreneur.
Yeah, no, I think apparently I like learning lessons the hard way,
Yeah, same here. So let's just get started straight into it. So what is Strength Portal?
Yeah, so well, first of all, thank you for having me, Lawrence. Really appreciate it. So Strength Portal is a SaaS platform for gyms, studios, and personal trainers to manage and scale their training services. So if you just kind of boil it down to the basics, most of our customers are writing personalized workout programs, tracking the workouts on the floor with the clients. Typically that's being done in pen and paper or spreadsheets. So we have built a system to replace that and also try to deliver value to the business, the trainers themselves, and also the customers.
Yeah, great. And I should say actually the start of this, as we were kind of saying before we got started, this is something that a lot of businesses have really struggled to crack. There's been lots of applications that have come out to try and serve the industry. I don't know whether, because obviously I'm very focused on strength training studios and high intensity training, so I'm not sure whether I'm sure there is applications out there that other different fitness businesses use.
Oh yeah.
But in terms of our particular niche, nothing really seemed to really take off and be started to be used by all the businesses. It was, there would perhaps be something that would come out, and then some businesses would try it, but then they would just default back to pen and paper because it was too much friction, it was too slow, and there's probably a whole bunch of other reasons as well. So it's exciting to obviously see an application that's already very popular among some of my closest friends in our industry. The reason you're on this podcast is because, the likes of Skylar Tanner and Dr. Bryce Lee and Blair Wilson have been singing your praises and talking about this software. And they're constantly like, troubleshooting in a WhatsApp group I'm part of, helping each other out. They had a few questions. I put a message in the group before this call and I said, what questions do you have for Matt? Because I'm going to talk to him today and maybe I'll get a chance to ask them and help you guys out. And so then Blair asked a question and then Skylar and Bryce just sent like 50 messages helping him solve that. So now it's like totally redundant. There's no point me even asking it. So there you go.
That's honestly so cool to hear.
Yeah.
It's like, that really means a lot.
That's what you want, right? Users that become like so passionate about it. They learn it inside out and they can actually help each other, that community kind of built to it. So that I should have started with that because that's really important. And I should say there are some other apps out there which I am looking at as well, who again are designed by individuals who know this space, who know high intensity training very well. But I just think that you're probably slightly ahead at this stage. So you gave a really good description there, just a high level view of Strength Portal. So do you want to? Is this a good time now to actually share your screen and just give us an overview of the product so we can see how it all works?
Yeah, absolutely. I can transition to that, but maybe I'll kind of answer the question that you were helping to kind of frame the conversation. So there are a lot of software platforms out there for fitness businesses. And I think the best way to kind of summarize it, especially when we first started the business in 2013, and then when we rebuilt in 2017, 2018, is that the majority of the softwares out there have kind of focused on independent personal trainers, helping them take their business online. And so when we first started in 2013, we were like one of two, but when we rebuilt the platform in 2017, we're deciding where to focus on. In a span of a few years, there was already like 10 or 12 different softwares out there. So a completely different landscape. So what we kind of saw as an opportunity was to, instead of kind of build in like maybe like a bit of an easier use case with a single trainer sending a workout program to a client online through a mobile app, we decided to get into like a very messy and complex situation, which was helping multi-location businesses, but also single location businesses with a full training team that are doing in-person training, semi-private training, hybrid training, and also pure online training. So to kind of boil that back, I think the real value in our platform is that we've gone into a very complex situation, and we've spent literally years now building a software platform that meets the needs for like high demand use cases. If you think about the average day for some of your friends that you mentioned, Skylar Tanner, Bryce Lee, Blair Wilson, the team over at Discover Strength, they go in, they're working 10 to 12 hours a day. They're writing very detailed, personalized workout programs. They have multiple trainers on the floor tracking those workouts, and they're viewing the data every single week, every single month, and trying to write the right program for those clients to help them keep on making progress. So it's really challenging to build software for these type of use cases where you're having your users use responsive web apps in environments that may not have like great Wi-Fi, even to start.
Yeah.
And to like meet their basic needs. So the question you're kind of asking in the beginning is like, why hasn't the software really cracked this space?
Yeah.
It seems really simple to replace pen and paper and Excel, but it's really not. Like we do look at competitors and stuff like that, but really our biggest competitor is Excel and pen and paper, and just kind of the built up habits of our customers using their systems that don't necessarily scale well, or don't really necessarily like allow you to leverage the data in really interesting and meaningful ways. So that's our competitor right there, is building a software that allows our customers to seamlessly transition from something that's working really well for years. So it's challenging. So yeah, I just wanted to kind of dig into that before maybe jump into the software, because I don't know, I could talk about this for hours. it's really fun and interesting and complex, and I learn something new probably every single week from our customers. So
What are some of the biggest challenges then in making this work and making actually customers use it? The customers you're
yeah,
after.
yeah. So a part of it is just like the onboarding in the first place. So if you look at most of our customers, they're using a billing and scheduling software, and that's kind of their source of truth, their database for their customers. So you look at the few different iterations of where we focus on our business, like phase one, maybe 2017 to 2020 was focusing on in-person training for Equinox's specific needs across 100 locations. But we really built a really strong foundation where their trainers were using our platform every single day, tracking hundreds of workouts and doing it successfully, using tablets in like literally like dungeons and basements in New York, for example. So we built the foundation that kind of set us up for success. But after that, we invested into integrations such as MindBody, where now it's essentially turnkey. We come with the customer, we start with the customer. We help them set up their exercise library that can be completely customized, their workout program library, and then we turn on the integration, and then their trainers are able to log in, access all their clients. So to kind of answer that specifically, onboarding is a big challenge for us because our customers have so much content locked into other areas. So like those spreadsheets, that pen and paper, or maybe it's just in their head. And the goal is sometimes it takes a week, sometimes it takes up to 6, but we have to make a heavy investment into the onboarding so that when their trainers use the platform, they have all the content they need so they can make that seamless transition. So we work really hard with just engaging with the customer, helping them get that content in place, building tools to streamline the operations. So when their training team starts using it, it's not like they have to start using everything from scratch or writing their own workout programs from scratch, because learning any new tool is going to take some time. And it's particularly challenging when, this is a tool that it's so integrated into their daily lives. And if you don't kind of meet that, that minimum of value, often people will just stop.
You got to skill up real quick. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. So we compare to other softwares like across many different industries that maybe can kind of deliver value like as soon as you turn it on. We have to work a lot harder to get to that value return, which I think is a bit of a barrier up front. But once you get past that hump, there's so much value you're going to get in your daily workflow and also in the long term. And it kind of results in a situation where painful up front, but our customers get that long-term value and then they kind of never leave, which is, a great business situation for us. So
yeah, sticky. I'd be completely upfront. The biggest issue for me, and for everyone listening, I haven't yet transitioned to Strength Portal, although it's on the list and we're very interested in part of today's purpose of today is to explore that a little bit more. But yeah, I mean, look, I probably, I don't know whether this is relevant, but whenever I've done like political compass, I come across like I'm kind of centrist, but leaning right, and so I'm kind of conservative and I'm resistant to change in a lot of ways. I don't know whether that's that relevant, but it just made me kind of think, well, does that, sorry, go comment on that. Go ahead.
No. I mean, I think that's really interesting. That's what pops to your mind. It's like, if you're a business owner, especially a small business owner, like most of your listeners probably are, change is always going to be hard. Like you have so many different things going on. You're taking on so many different tasks for your business day in, day out. And so when you kind of get a tool that's working well enough, how much effort it requires to replace that with something new. So just to kind of go a little bit deeper there. So our family business, my dad has run a small furniture store. He's a carpenter by trade. So they been running a family business back home in California in Sonoma for 35 years. So that's kind of the environment I grew up in. I'm very aware of like what it's like for a small business owner, and eventually, that's what I became. So I definitely recognize like, you kind of honed in on the exact issue. Is change is hard, and you know how painful it is. And even like, even though it may be a better solution to move to, just the pain of having gone through situations like that before, where it's going to be a tough 2 to 3 months no matter what, prevents a lot of people from even starting. So our job is to try to make it as easy as possible for people to transition, to reduce or remove that friction. So yeah.
It's so funny. You're so right. It's because when I think of this, might be interesting to you. When I think of like, we've got our priorities for the quarter and for the year and for the quarter, and things I'm focused on, and it's maybe it should be further up, but sometimes it's not, because I'm more focused on those other things, and they might be generating free workouts, for example, or something else. And so it's one of those where if you're looking at it like an Eisenhower matrix, like it may, well, at least for us currently, falls in the important but not urgent quadrant, right? But what is making it more, I think, coming to the fore for us is a couple of things. There's the desire from clients to see more progress tracking. And the way we've been doing that recently is through just using a Google Sheet and taking values from either someone's virtual, or which is their workout card would be a Google Sheet again, or their physical workout card. And obviously producing very, very basic graphs based on those values, which is difficult because there's a lot of variables, as you know, and especially the more long-term it becomes and all those things. And then you've got some really clever clients, and, we tend to attract very smart people who have, good understanding of like engineering and mathematics. And they're like, well, hang on, that doesn't show me this type of representation of my performance or whatever it is, right? When I know that software would make that a ton easier. So that is a big draw, one of them. I think the other one is just trying to think what other things are kind of bringing it to the fore for us. I think it's just professionalism as well, like having the workout card, there's sort of a potentially a thing where we think, well, we're selling something that's a premium price point. It's we want to position ourselves as being a very high quality brand, and does pen and paper represent that in today's world, where you have this kind of technology available to you? So anyway, there's a lot more probably that I can't think of right now, but I'd have to go back to some of my other lists, but those are things that come to me right away in terms of, things that make me think, we should really be thinking about this.
Do you mind if I ask a question? Like, how big is your team for?
It's very small. We're a startup. So we have 2 trainers, it's 3 of us, 2 trainers. Yeah. So.
Right. Yeah. So the reason I asked that is that kind of the point in most of our customers' business growth, where they, kind of recognize the pain enough to transition over to our platform, is when they start to go from like 1 trainer to 2 up to, and kind of see the path to going to 3 to 5. And that's where I think the value of our platform really starts to shine. If you come on Strength Portal, if you use it as a single personal trainer, maybe it won't look like that interesting compared to like, other software platforms out there that kind of focus on that. But when you go from 2 to 3 to 5, or, if you use the extreme example of our customers like Equinox, where they have 100 locations with 15 to 25 trainers per location, you start to see like how seamlessly it scales for all the value that we've kind of built in, that makes it easy to work together as a team. And that's when I'm talking about the complexity of the work environments that we've really, focused on. We've spent years focusing on those exact kind of like relationships between the trainers, like on a training floor, what their tasks are going to be like week to week, and then how to interact with the clients. So I think it's really interesting because if you want to get like really nitty gritty, think about like, I'm a trainer and I'm trying to build like a smart professional training system that's going to be reproducible for all of my team, to be able to consistently deliver results month after month and be able to retain the clients. And ideally you want something that scales. So that's where we've really focused on from our product and like where we put our time and energy into the features, is how to collaborate seamlessly as a team. So that's that's one of the main reasons that I think Equinox, Discover Strength, and also like some of the customers and listeners that you mentioned, that Blair, Skylar, Bryce, and more, is like they're all kind of like that in growth, that next, they're reaching that next phase of growth as a business. And they're realizing like, hey, it's worth kind of putting up with that short-term pain to be able to make it so like, if I can hire a new trainer and just kind of give them Strength Portal and they know exactly what to do because like there's a clear process to follow, that makes it that much easier for me to help scaling my business to like the next level and the next level. So, yeah.
You're speaking my language. Yeah. So is it a good time now to actually give a quick overview, or do you want to talk some more? I don't mind. Whatever is.
I'm happy to kind of just jump right into it.
And I guess what we have to be mindful of is we'll have this on YouTube, but there will be people that are just listening. So I will try to paint you a vivid picture if Matt doesn't do so as we go through this.
Yeah, absolutely. So just to go high level real quick, I think it's good to frame. So I did say it earlier, but step one, like when you're onboarding with us, is like we're going to be asking like if you have a billing and scheduling platform that you're already using. So if it's MindBody, Jonas Fitness, ABC Fitness, or something else, we are building more support integrations to make it easy for you to onboard. So that's kind of step one, is to figure out where are all of your staff and member accounts. And if we can turn on an integration to be able to pull them into the system to make it really easy to just get started, that we want to recognize that. But we do have other options, whether we just do like a CSV upload or a manual add. Our customers use all of those options to be able to get started in Strength Portal. But I'm going to go over to the platform, which I'm demoing now. And step one, when we engage with a customer, is we want to figure out who's going to be what we call the super admin of the team account. That's essentially just going to be the person who's managing the content, the integrations, the billing, but also making sure that everything is in place for the training team to kind of do their work day in and day out. So what you're seeing here is an organization page. And this is where those different paths for just kind of getting all your accounts are going to come in. You have the ability to connect to different integrations and just turn them on. You can add users, you can do the import. And at the end of that, the outcome will be you have a full list of your staff and a full list of all your clients or members at the location that are accessible for you. And the reason that I'm demoing this is for kind of two reasons. Is that step one is kind of get it in there so it's set up. But after that, after you get everything so that the team can start working, you're going to be able to get all this really nice, pretty data coming in to see just kind of activity metrics. So if I'm a gym owner, fitness manager, maybe at a single location, and I have multiple trainers that are using the platform, I'm able to see how many clients they're working with, how many programs like they're enrolling to clients, the workouts that they're tracking every single week, over a month. And if the clients are actually having workouts shared with them and the clients are tracking that, we can see that as well. It says client homework here. We'll probably change that to just client tracked workouts. But the end goal here is that as a manager, maybe, most likely for your customers, they're still going to be like on the floor doing training day in, day out. But at the end of the week, you can see, what it looks like overall across the entire team. And just to go one level deeper there, one of our goals, probably for the back half this year is to dive a little bit deeper into the integrations. For MindBody is a good example where there's billing and scheduling data you have for like how many training sessions someone's paid for, how many training sessions they've completed. And then on our platform, we have the actual workouts that are being tracked in the data associated with that. So we want to be able to kind of pull in additional data from MindBody to make it easier for you to have kind of like one location that's relevant for you to be able to kind of know what type of conversations you need to have with the trainers and their clients to ensure that your business is moving forward from a revenue direction as well. So
one of the things I struggle with MindBody is, and this is probably because we're cheap and we're on the lowest tier is the reporting options. They're very, very limited. And, I don't know whether, would this mean that you'd be able to see, sessions completed without having to then upgrade to the second tier, so you can integrate with Strength Portal to get that feature? Get those reports.
So we're going to try to figure out how to navigate that, whether we can just pull in that data and just kind of match it up with our own and show both, or if we can kind of do like something that's a little bit more automated back to MindBody. So you have like it takes away like a manual step for tracking in one system and tracking in two. But the reporting, like kind of those automations are really interesting to me, but also just making smarter reports with more concrete data where you can confirm platform 1, platform 2, like there's not any mismatches between it, because especially as like your team and the amount of workouts that you're doing each week scales, you want to be able to get as much detail as possible to make sure like there's nothing, that is fishy. It's all accurate and clean. So we'll figure that out, but we have like helpful data that will just make it a richer data set for you to be able to work from.
It's a bit of an odd question, but I mean, we're definitely guilty of like giving someone a personal training session for free because we've, mismanaged their number of sessions in MindBody and whatever. And I'm sure listeners can relate to that. And I'm just wondering, if so that's always one of my concerns with MindBody reports, as I know, because we're not using MindBody absolutely perfectly, that our reports probably aren't that useful. There's going to be some discrepancies. So is that going to be any different with Strength Portal? Will it highlight those discrepancies because you'll see maybe a difference in the reports? And I'm just curious how this helps that situation, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So what you'll have in our platform, to just kind of start there, is traceability, right? So as a training team, you'll be able to go into every single account and see when the workouts were tracked, the exact timestamps, and who tracked them. So I think it allows you to get the confirmation that you're looking for. If you're looking to, like, say in MindBody, it's just like a session was tracked. But in our system, you have the traceability to say like who did what at what time. And then you can kind of like paint that picture to, confirm whether it's like accurate or not. So,
Okay, great. Yeah, I mean, I think you gave a good description of what we're looking at right now. But basically Matt's got the Strength Portal app open on his browser, and we're looking at a list of clients. Just obviously, this is obviously a demo account. So just client A, client B, client C. And it's really good. It just shows you how many programs they're enrolled in, sessions completed, sessions remaining. So it's a nice overview of client management.
Yeah, absolutely. So after that, I'll transition over to the exercise library. And I think your audience will kind of find this interesting for a few different reasons, is that if you just make an account on Strength Portal, what's going to happen is that the library will be generated with just kind of our default. And it's a list of maybe 800 exercises. About 300 of them have our exercise videos, which, anyone can use. There's no branding associated with them. So hopefully it's, kind of turnkey. But for the customers that we work with, especially your audience, Lawrence, is that there's kind of a very specific structure to the workouts that are being programmed. I don't know if it's maybe just picky, but you have your preferences.
We do.
So and this is definitely no critique on that, but like the nice thing about our platform is that, and also our users, which I find really interesting, is they come in and they're like, cool, I'm not going to use that. And we have the ability to just create a custom library from scratch with them. Oftentimes, like when we talk to our customers, they're like, yeah, so I already have everything in a spreadsheet. Can you just like import that? And we can. So we work with them to make sure, like based off of our lessons learned from doing this across like hundreds of locations for the last 5 years, of like, maybe things you want to avoid for like terminology, nomenclature, be able to like assist with searching, like who has the ability to edit these, one person versus like a full team. So you don't add to like clutter for your exercise library, and the exercise library scales really nicely as well, whether it's one location, one training team, or multiple. But anywho, we have the ability to create that custom library I think like Discover Strength has maybe about like 200 exercises, mostly kind of based off their equipment. Skylar may have a combination of like our library and like the ones that he's added. I think it's kind of something similar with Bryce and Blair and those users as well. So just to kind of go back to one thing you were talking about earlier, is one of the interests for a lot of our customers coming into Strength Portal is that you're trying to create a system and being, professional. And going back to that idea where I talked about, like, if we can have a platform where, you hire a new trainer, they come in and it's essentially turnkey, getting the exercise library right is super important for that in my eyes. So you want a trainer to be able to come in here and be like, hey, here's exactly how we program. Here's the exercises we use. And having like the level of detail that you can get in our exercise library to be able to customize exercise to meet your needs is really important for that. So just to kind of click through like maybe a few of these and talk through a few examples. I'm clicking on an exercise. Maybe it's a more kind of like old school powerlifting exercise. It's one board bench press. It's got sets, reps, weight. So, that's in there. But the reason I'm bringing this up is that you have a variety of different metrics that you can choose for each exercise. So you have the exercise name. Sets is obviously going to be preset with every single exercise, but the different metrics that you can track with the exercise or variables can be reps, weight, distance, and time. And we do force you to select one or two of those metrics or to be associated with that exercise as kind of the standard. But when we get later to the programming, you'll see that even though we have those kind of preset options, you do have the option to add or still track other metrics as well. So a use case where we see really common is that, especially probably for your audience, is that maybe it's not so much, sets, reps, weight, which is maybe a little bit more like general consumer average fitness standard. Maybe it's going to be reps, weight, time, because your audience really cares about time under tension. So you do have the ability to make that a standard, whether it's weight and time or reps and time associated with an exercise. And then when you add that exercise to a program, those are the metrics that are going to pop up right away for you to be able to track into. But you do have the flexibility to add each of those metrics and track them in the programs if you want to get more detailed as well. So after that, you do have the ability to add an exercise description. So two different ways that this can be leveraged is it can kind of be internally focused, whether it's, hey, here's this exercise and I'm writing this description to help my training team know how to coach a client for this exercise. Or maybe you do hybrid or online training where you're sharing workouts with your clients and this information will be visible to them as well. So even if you aren't with them in person, they can still have the information they need to perform that exercise in a safe way. So you're not adding risk to the experience. And two other things, you do have the ability to add like YouTube or Vimeo videos to those. We might add the ability to just kind of host directly in like a AWS S3 bucket. So we can do the hosting for you as well. Maybe add GIFs as well. So I ran through a lot. So if you have any questions,
that's great. Yeah. So what we're looking at now, for those that are listening, we're looking at the exercise library page, and it's just a whole list of many, many exercises in alphabetical order. Did you say it's 800? Did you say, is that right?
Yeah, I think the default is around 800 when you make an account.
Yeah. So I think, needless to say, to your earlier point, like, a lot of people in our space will want to create their own exercise library, or at least modify what's here, I suspect, to match their own brand and beliefs about exercise. This is really interesting. There's a few points I wanted to make. One of the, I guess, challenges with not having a standard, like these are the exercises that we use, is trainers are probably just going to use their own exercises, right? Now, this is actually something that happens in our business. So we've got a fantastic trainer who really kind of stepped in for us when we needed him most. I was going on paternity leave and I couldn't train clients, and just frankly, my young family and my missus needed a lot of support. And so he understood our methodology. He's a HIIT trainer, so he could just step in and do a great job. And very little onboarding required. And we've got a quote unquote exercise menu in a Google Sheet. And I allow him to sort of deviate off that because he's kind of a special case. He's got quite a few years under his belt teaching the style of exercise. He gets it. He understands our particular rules around exercise protocol and how to perform exercises. But occasionally, he'll do an exercise where I'm like, I'm not sure I agree that's the best option biomechanically for that particular muscle group. And, and we kind of have a discussion about it. And then I sort of make a note and say, okay, well, I'm very much a believer of, how do I put this? I have so much belief in him that I'm not going to stifle.
Maybe.
Yeah, it's autonomy. Yeah. And also I don't like the overwhelm of worrying about every detail. I like to just handle the big things. And if he's doing a particular sit-up method, which I don't 100% think is the most optimal way, I don't always think that's the best way to use my time to correct that, right? At least not now where we are. So that's, I guess, what I'm trying to say. I kind of pick my battles. So that's the first thing. And so obviously the solution here in part is that you create consistency. So let me hopefully I've answered this correctly. So when trainers come to then create programs, they can only pick exercises from the menu. They can't just create something out of thin air unless they've got super admin permissions or something, right? So that's
right.
That's obvious, right? That's what you're probably thinking. Well, yeah, Lawrence, that's like kind of one of the basic features. But I only really realized that after watching you go through this. So
no, yeah, it's something that it seems simple, like at its face, but when you're talking about it from a software level, like what we're digging into is called RBAC, or role-based access control. Easier, more common way to say it is like roles and permissions. So you have different roles and responsibilities within your organization. So whether it's like one location or multiple. And where I was kind of talking about like all those like complex challenges that we dug into and built for years is like we have really strong ability to customize our roles and permissions. So that's kind of the default. What I'm talking about is the super admin control, but we do have flexibility to kind of like turn permissions on or off depending on our customer's needs. So we do have some customers where it's like super, super collaborative, where like their training team is all just like kind of like same, level. And like they all add and work together, but we also have kind of top-down control within our system, which I think is really important. It is probably like the right default for most. So for just to kind of give an example, at Equinox, 100 different locations, exercise library about 900, but they do allow their trainers to kind of like write their own exercises. But the way that works is that if a trainer writes an exercise, it's only going to show up there in their library, but not the full team library, because you don't want to be able to just have a massive library that builds. Yeah. So it allows for an interesting opportunity where, just like you were touching on, or if you have a trainer that you want to give some level of autonomy for, but you don't want it to clutter up like your master, they could add their own exercises if they want to, without affecting the overall. And we've seen some really interesting kind of fun use cases for that, where let's just say a trainer is writing a workout for a client and like they're going to be traveling, and maybe they, write something like that's personal and fun as an exercise, like client A's, like, crazy calf, whatever. So you can, good. Thank you for finishing that. So, you can kind of do like quirky stuff like that, but we can also turn that off. So the main reason I kind of want to get there is like it's our platform. When you go through it, it seems simple, but like it's incredibly hard work to be able to like, build a system that's simple, but still allows for like smooth workflows with customization. So for you, with your use case, and for most of your customers, I do think the right choice is, we can talk through those options, but it's helpful to have one source of control for, kind of making those decisions, and to be really clean as your team scales. But, you're going to have those conversations with your team, and those are really healthy and engaging conversations to have. That's going to help like your business evolve over time to maybe add or edit or refine. So your team does have the ability to kind of have those conversations, and then you can make any adjustments to customize your exercise library, whether it's day one or, like year 3 down the road. So.
Yeah, great. And don't know if anyone else picked up on this, but you said DS discover strength for about 200. And I don't know whether that's a work in progress, but it doesn't surprise me because I know that. And what's one thing I love about one of their policies is they have a few filters they use for deciding whether they use a particular exercise. And it's normally something around efficiency, around biomechanics, because obviously that's a big part of their differentiator, being efficient. And I suspect that 200, I mean, you correct me if I'm wrong, but that might be their entire library. And that's because they've really kind of drawn down to these are the only exercises we believe are the most effective. So kudos to doing that. I think that's good job, David and Luke and whoever else was involved. I think that's very inspiring.
No, I think it's really interesting. And to be honest, it's something that I didn't fully get or expect until you kind of see it. It's just, you kind of grow up in different fitness communities or different approaches, et cetera, online fitness, in-person fitness. So that was really interesting for me to kind of see after coming from more of like an Equinox, being kind of all in and Equinox for a few years. And then, luckily we built a system that has the flexibility to be able to support both.
Yeah. Must be quite removed, actually. They're very different businesses in how they determine what's an appropriate exercise or not.
Yeah. I can't share like too much detail, but like it's honestly fascinating. I mean, it's one of my favorite things about, talking to different customers is seeing their different approaches to the business. And it all kind of ties back to their business models and, their prior education, et cetera. So,
Yeah, absolutely. Interesting. Okay. So just to clarify, I have, as I said, a Google sheet with, I have, exercises down one column and then all the various muscle groups that they target in 4 to 5 other columns, agonist, muscle, antagonist, dynamic stabilizer, et cetera, et cetera. And then I probably have another column that has some notes on how we want it to be performed. Then if there is a video, there's another column with video links. How would that be seamlessly, or what's the easiest way to import that into something like this? Would we have to do that manually? Can your team do that on our behalf? And what's the cost?
We do that for you.
Okay.
Yeah. So we do that. We have an internal tool that we use. So, unfortunately, since there's not kind of like one standard template that everyone's using to structure their exercise library, it's tough to kind of like build a tool that can be exposed to our customers. But essentially we take your spreadsheet, maybe we just like adjust the columns a bit or add or edit it slightly to ensure like it's a clean import, and then we import it for you. So you won't need to do anything. In our business model, just to kind of touch on that, is unless you require like custom setup, you don't have a support integration or something like that, or if you're not multi-location, for a single location, we don't try to impose implementation or onboarding fees. I know that's pretty standard in the industry, probably for more of the legacy softwares out there. That's just not how we choose to do business for our customers that are enterprise or multi-location. The whole goal is to reduce friction, not add to it for you to get started, because we know the friction is in the beginning, but the long-term value is going to be returned. So, yeah.
Okay. All right. So you would do that basically free of charge then, that piece of work.
That's correct.
That could be quite extensive though, right? Quite a lot of labor. No?
I mean, a little.
Or you've got really clever people, haven't you, who understand how to find shortcuts for this?
It's a combination of both. Good team, we built good tools over the years to help, but also to be honest, one of the reasons I really like it is it allows us to kind of learn about our customer and kind of become more intimately familiar with their business. So it's helpful for us because the more we understand our customer, the better we can build the right tools for them. Because there's so much, there's so many different ways you can approach programming and tracking and the data that you're going to be looking for. So it's a helpful educational opportunity for us. So it's kind of worth a little bit of the manual pain to be able to get a clearer picture of the business that we're working with.
How big is the team?
We're a small team. It's 5 overall. So yeah, we're a bootstrapped, small, scrappy, hardworking team that loves what we do.
Cool. Awesome. All right. So what's next?
Yeah, and one thing just to touch on real quick is we do have the ability to create groups. I don't think I have any in this account, but so exercise groups, one of the ways I think it's really interesting to be able to leverage this is you can create essentially a list of exercises. Think about it as like, maybe if I want to create like a progression or such as like maybe, like here's like single leg exercises from like easiest to hardest, or like squat progression, or like if you want to get really detailed, like hip dominant bilateral or knee dominant bilateral, unilateral, etc. You have the ability to create groups, and this kind of helps go back to that onboarding education. Is like you have trainers that come in, and they have a big list of exercises maybe that they're working with. But if they have groups where it's kind of organized to say, hey, here's the exercises, like how we like what think about them, how they're connected together. Here's the progressions. You can actually put those exercise groups into programs and provide like even a clearer path for them to be able to work from. So just to kind of get go in an example a little bit further, let's say you have a workout program template where you have like maybe squat and single leg, or like maybe a push or a pull. As a trainer, you can go in, you can see those groups, you can select from the progression which one's going to be the right fit for your client, and then you track that right there on the floor. So it's a nice additional option that we have that I don't think I've really seen anywhere else. It was kind of inspired by a lot of the workout program spreadsheets that we used to see from our trainers back in the day when we were kind of building the system. So, yeah.
Does this, I don't know if you've already answered this question, but let's say I just want to know, okay, what are all the exercises that we do for abdominals? Would that be in groups as well?
Yeah. So you could do something like that. And this is, part of like, it's kind of manual customization you can add. We don't have kind of a standard, but you could do that. And, so the example I just gave is kind of more internal facing with like, your staff for the programming. But you could group it like that. And another use case that we've seen, which I find super interesting, is kind of like user choice and extending autonomy to your customers. So let's just say, let's use like cardio as an example. You write a workout program, you send it to your client, they're doing it on their own. And you say, hey, you're going to do an exercise from this list. And it's like 5 different cardio options, or like abdominal or like core focused exercise they can choose from. And they would have the ability to select from that list if they had the workout program shared with them. So going back to the idea of autonomy is, you could add that to not only your training team, but to your clients. And that's a really interesting, potentially option to just engage. So, yeah.
Yeah, great. Yeah, I just thinking, I was thinking, when the way I think we would like to do it, I'm just thinking out loud is, a trainer understands that he has or she has a criteria for the client's workout program, and should then, if they, for instance, one of ours will be, and it's similar to Discover Strength, very comprehensive workout, making sure there's an exercise for every muscle group. And so by having groups based on muscle groups, chest, abdominals, shoulders, they can go to that and then just select the exercise that makes the most sense for that particular client. Yeah. So it could be, could be one use case for that. Yeah.
Yeah. It's, once again, just getting closer and closer to the idea where it's turnkey, it's like, hey, here's how we do this. And that's the whole goal. So what I've done now for those that are listening is I switched over to the program management page. And so think of it as program library. So I'll kind of talk about this in 2 different parts. We have like the super admin ability, and then you also have a kind of the team training staff use cases. So the first page that I've displayed is a team library list of programs. So when we're going through the onboarding process, like not only are we asking like, what's your exercises that you want to have like in your account, but do you have any kind of preset workout program templates? And then, maybe we'll write in 1 or 2 of them for you into the account. So you can just kind of see it, or maybe we'll kind of do it together, or we'll just kind of coach you on how to do it. But the main goal here, once again, is that you have the ability to write workout program templates and then turn them into team library templates. So team means that whenever a trainer logs in, they'll have the ability to take one of these programs, make a copy of it, personalize it for the clients. And then now you have version 1 and version 2. So that allows for that kind of like creating that training system that's reproducible and consistent across, one trainer, 2, 3, or even multiple locations. You have a central source, kind of an approved list of programs that can be pulled from. So in this example that I'm just kind of demonstrating, probably not like the perfect fit of program like titles for, maybe your audience, but I have like beginner strength, beginner hypertrophy, intermediate with the same intents, and then advanced, just to kind of as an example. So we see like quite a variety of like ways that team library program templates are built out. For Equinox, for example, they have like a team library program list of like about 20 with like a lot of like very specific use cases like they could be used. And then, sometimes we see a little bit more kind of focused in or general. And we also see workout program assessments, maybe like a reusable template that you're going to do once a month with a client to kind of track like, progress for those specific exercises, just kind of do a check-in. So there's a lot of, opportunity or different use cases like that can be opened up from this feature.
Yeah, this is great. So yeah, I mean, just to clarify further, so now we're looking at a screen which has all the programs which will encapsulate obviously the different workout programs, and they've just got different titles like advanced hypertrophy, advanced strength. Mm-hmm. So yeah, you could have, obviously many of us would like to have, I guess, some templates. I don't know, it's interesting. Like I wonder how many templates we would have versus having a blank canvas for every client, you know, because what I found is, especially found this for virtuals, is they are so variable depending on the client's personal needs and injuries and goals and things like that, I rarely do I just use a template. I've tried, but it's almost always slightly different, only slightly, but yeah.
Yes. And so I find this super interesting. I think you will too. So this is part of like when I go back to like, I want to see like how our customers are writing programs and structuring their exercise library, is like there's a lot that we can kind of take away from that. So with Equinox, just kind of use that as an example, is like when we first built out their workout program template library, they had, maybe 10 different workout program templates. They were all like 4 weeks, kind of like very regimented, I guess you could say, for like, hey, here's what we think like a trainer should do from like week 1 through 4, just kind of follow the process. And those were, after a year, they completely rewrote them and changed it based off their trainer feedback. And now what it is they go in, the trainer has like more of like 1 week, maybe 2 to 3 sessions for a workout program. And then they build the program kind of week to week as they go. And so what we've kind of seen from the feedback of our customers, and also just looking at the data, is that there's kind of 2 different approaches. Like there's like that iterative or agile programming where a program is going to build over time, or maybe there's like a more strict 4 to 6 week program template that's going to be written out. And I think they both have like, good use cases that are the right fit. So for that more like fully written out, that probably works well for like online training, where that's super specific for like what the goal is of that client. If you're doing like powerlifting or bodybuilding and muscle, just et cetera, maybe like fat loss. But for in-person training, it's very, very different. And there's a lot of variety and flexibility and adaptability that a trainer has to have, like even session to session. So that I think that iterative program is probably our dominant use case for our customers that we see. So that'd be a question that we'd be asking you during the onboarding process, is like, what does your programs look like? How do you kind of structure? How do you edit over time? So for most of the audience here and the customers that we already engage with, that we have similar overlap, it seems to be that kind of iterative approach where week after week you're doing the 1 to 2 sessions, and then you're copying those sessions over to the next week, maybe making a few adjustments, bumping up or bumping down the weights based on what happened.
Yeah.
Looking at your notes.
Very little in the way of periodization. Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Because we're far more, I would argue we're more we more accountable for delivering double progression or some kind of progression than most fitness concepts out there who are constantly changing things up and confusing the muscles. I say that in jest because you can't confuse muscles. But so no, I hear what you're saying. And yeah, we'd be very similar. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And just to kind of go back to kind of like the complexity that arises with working with a training team is so there's, as a manager, but as like an owner, there's kind of two different approaches you can take. Or you can have like your staff is like, hey, like follow these templates, like, like this is how we do things. Or maybe you can open it up as like, hey, here's these options that you can use. So, if you want to use them to kind of streamline your process and get like consistency with how we're doing it, great. If not, maybe it's like more of a studio where the trainers are kind of contracted and they have, their own control over how they personalize the programs. So we do support both, and we have their permissions to kind of like turn those on or off as well. So one thing that I find interesting is that to me, it kind of depends on like the experience of the trainer, and we actually have some data to support this. So at Equinox, they have like tiers 1 through 4, and tiers 1 and 2 is like you're just hired, you haven't gone through their education yet. And tiers 3 and 4 is like maybe you've worked at Equinox for 3 to 5 years or more. What we found is that the tiers 1 and 2 trainers use the workout program templates 80% of the time. They enroll the client into it. Maybe they make a few adjustments, but they're following that template. Where tiers 3 and 4, it's the complete inverse. They write their own workout program templates 80% of the time, and then they have their own library they kind of like refine and build off of to streamline their own like operations. So I think that's a really interesting kind of like question for a team to have is, how are we going to approach like our programming? Like what are the goals of like our clients? Like how are we going to best meet those like with our programming system? So you can kind of make that choice as a team, whether it's like, hey, like here's these programs where like we're going to follow it like to a T, or maybe like it's, you can make these adjustments, or maybe you have like full freedom to do it. So the answer is usual with something like this. It just kind of depends like on your specific business and goals. But we do have the variety to support each of those use cases. And the last piece that I find really interesting is that as a manager in our system with the super admin, you have the ability to see everything as well. So often our platform is used by Equinox or Discover Strength or like our other customers where they have like a full training team that's working together, where the super admin or a manager can go in and look at the client's profiles and their programs and see the history. And that's often a really good learning experience that was often already happening in other areas. And now it can happen in our platform where a manager and a trainer can look at the program together and have a conversation about how the program was written, the different decisions that were made along the way, and all the data is like right there for them to look at. So,
yeah, awesome. Quick question. Can maybe we'll get to this. Tell me if it's too early to say this, but in terms of progress and tracking and sharing that with clients, are we coming on to that? Shall I save those questions for now?
No. I can skip ahead. So I'm going to a client management page where a trainer would be able to see like a list of their clients they're working with. Just touch on it real quick is we do have two different models that we can turn on for you. One is classic, where I'm a trainer and I have my clients that I work with, but I don't share with anyone else. And the other, which fits probably your audience, is open. And that means that every single trainer will have the opportunity to work with every single client and has the ability to edit every single program. So open, if I'm open for, like let's use Skylar as an example in Smart Strength Austin, any of his training team can log in. They'll see all the clients. They click into a client profile. They can see those programs like that they're enrolled to, or maybe I'll go over here. And then every trainer would be able to click into the program, and they when they track a workout, it says who did what at what time. So it would say completed by trainer A or trainer B or the client themselves. So that's like allows for that collaboration I was kind of talking about. But for the actual output for what the data looks like in the long term, when I click into a client profile, you'll have a few different tabs that are available. And what I clicked into is data visualization. So this is kind of the last the last part of the full process as a trainer, where you can view all the data that you worked so hard to get. You write the personalized workout programs. You get your trainer or your client to come into the gym and you track the workout, track sessions over multiple weeks and months. And now we have nice, pretty data that we can actually like look at.
Wow.
So for this, like for those that are listening, what I've done is I've selected a date range, just 90 days. I'm grouping the data by week. You're going to have a few data points that are there by default. So the total workouts that were tracked over that time frame, and also the total volume lifted over time, just because that I kind of like volume, just going to show like overall like work capacity.
What is that? What does that mean? Reps or sessions or what is that?
Yeah, just like sets times reps times weight for each exercise added up. And then we just look at the timestamps. So if you go down to this graph, it's showing every single week how much volume I lifted across all of my exercises. And you can see like, so it's looking back 3 months. In February to March, it was really low because I hurt my back. And then as I started to feel better, you can see like, oh, wow, yeah, his volume really bumped up. And now it's kind of like hitting an even better. I'm getting in more workouts and lifting more weight. So you can see kind of like a nice clean trend of up and to the right over time. And I have data for my workouts going back to like 4 years. And it's really interesting to see kind of pre-2020 and like 2020 and then
can you show us that? Can you make the range like really? What's the furthest back you can go? This is actually your legit, your own personal workouts, is it? Is yes. Real data for you?
Real data. Let's see. I'll do one. Let's see. Please choose a closer starting date. It may have. Let's see.
Yeah, I mean, even if it's just like a year or what, it doesn't have to be. That far back.
A year is probably okay.
Oh, cool.
There's like a full year, and I just think it's so funny because you can see and look at a week and be like, oh yeah, what happened like that week? And you see like there's 1 week across the entire year with nothing. It's when I went back home for Christmas to spend time with my family and didn't go to the gym or like a vacation here. So, anywho, so that, like, that's just like really nice and clean and easy. Like, and I think like the data starts to tell a story as it builds up over time. You can also search for specific exercises as well. But with the new feature that we literally just released last week as kind of the V1, we're actively iterating and building upon as we speak, is we used to just have this data visualization page where trainers could come in, just kind of like search for, just kind of play with the data. But what we've done is the ability to create a client report. You click create report. Let me take a step back. After you've selected the data that you want to like organize, you click create report. You have the ability to add a title. You can add notes that would be visible to the client. And then when the report gets created, you'll have a new responsive web page that gets spit out that can be shared with the client. So what you're seeing here, I have like the client's name, the gym business name. I have those data points, total volume, total workouts over that time. I think this is a 90-day time frame. You see the total volume lifted over time, and then you can have those specific exercises. I have like 3 different ones chosen here, volume over time for those. And
we don't just have to track volume. We can track lots of different things, right? So because volume might not be as meaningful sometimes for us. So
yeah, exactly.
You could do strength, for example, like weight lifted.
Yep, exactly. So, and this is just kind of V1. It's just like the cleanest, easiest path to be able to do. Yeah. So we have like volume over time, but also rep maxes for a variety of rep ranges over that time frame. And so really this is just kind of our proof of concept that was meant to get out to start the conversation and get even more feedback and see how it's used. Mm-hmm. But we've already received like incredible feedback from Discover Strength, from Skylar, from Bryce, from like the Equinox like team, that's really inspiring us to build like in some very clear directions very quickly. So I don't mind kind of going into detail on that. What we're going to be building as kind of like the next phase is our customers often have like those workout progress assessments that they'll do like once a month. And so it's a consistent workout program that they do with their clients that tracks just these exercises month after month and kind of like looks for like those like nice trend upwards for like, a client's strength or their ability to just like, hey, here's this exercise. Here's what I lifted like month 1. And now like you can see month like 3, 4, 5, 6, like the progress that I've made. So the reason that's kind of like, it's an interesting use case to solve because we had to figure out, okay, if I have an exercise that I'm looking for the specific data points, maybe that exercise is tracked across like multiple sessions a month. But you just say that for this specific exercise, for this specific workout program, for this specific client, I just want that one data point, then look at it month after month. So what we're doing is to go back to the program library. Our users are going to be able to select a team library program template that can be tied to a report. And then the training team, ideally, what they'll need to do is when they track that progress assessment month after month, they'll come into the data visualization tool. They'll be able to select the program that they want to be able to create a report for. And when they get to that client report page, it's going to have only those data points that we filtered down to that allow for that nice clean chart up and to the right. So I know that's kind of a pretty standard use case that's used by a lot of your friends and audience. So we're actively building that and we're super excited for it. And how we see it being used at the end of the day is like, it's going to be used internally, but it's also going to be used to help engage with the client and ideally help retain them. I know that every 4 to 6 weeks, every 4 to 6 weeks, like you're checking in with the client, showing them the progress that they've made. But in a lot of use cases, or a lot of businesses, you're trying to sell them on the next training package. So now, ideally, you have a tool that you can pull up and share with them, where they can see that progress over time. So
yeah. I mean, again, just to elaborate, and then I think we should probably jump into like a demonstration of tracking a workout before we wrap up, because that's obviously critical. But what we're looking at right now is this template report that Matt's produced from the software. So you can imagine like what you want to show your client after whatever it is, 10 sessions, 12 sessions, 16 sessions, is to show them how much they've improved in certain exercises. And you probably want to provide a bit of commentary around, the percentage and some encouragement and some positive feedback and just some kind of enthusiastic, encouraging words. And anything that you might be relevant, information that might be salient to help them understand the significance of what they're doing. So science and things like that. And what you could do is and what we're seeing, sorry, I'm digressing, but what we're seeing here is we're seeing a great visual. It's like just like you said, like a website, a dedicated kind of web page for the client, with all these graphs that are super easy to understand, that automatically generated. So, I mean, it means you need no technical knowledge whatsoever to create them. And then you've got the text that you've wrote in that box, which just come out of the top. So it's a really clean looking report that is just perfect. And this is going to take a lot of onus off your team to have to try and create these reports, because we've had challenges with that. And just make it easier and better for everyone. So this is brilliant, and it's customizable. You're tracking what you want to track and presenting what you want to present. So yeah, this is brilliant. Really impressive.
Awesome. Yeah, no, I really appreciate that. It's I think to be honest, this is a tool that I've wanted to build for like 3 to 4 years, but we had to work really hard in kind of building the foundation of the platform and those like nitty gritty roles and permissions, like the core functionality with the workout programming and tracking, and also the integrations. And then you kind of finally earn the opportunity to build like the cool stuff after you do like all the harder work. Yeah. So it's kind of like a really special moment for us as a team. Because,
you mean
like,
you don't spend all your time on promoting yourself for your Facebook page? You're actually obsessed with your product. That's really good to see.
We kind of just keep our heads down and work. We might be the worst marketers in the game. So
not at all. You're doing the right thing.
Yeah, no, it pays dividends is the best way to put it. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's really exciting for us. And just to kind of add to that real quickly is this is very much V1, and we're excited to release like the V1.1 with that program, like ability to tie program to it next month. But as of right now, we want as much feedback as possible from our users and potentially future or interested customers. Be like, hey, like here, send us the reports like that you're already creating that we can, so we can look at it, and we have a ton of flexibility for what we could do with this tool. So this is really meant to kind of start the conversation. It's already adding value, but we've heard just in the last like week alone so many interesting use cases of how it can be used that we couldn't think of on our own. So we're really, really interested and willing to engage in those type of conversations because it allows us to build this into the best possible version that it could be. So
Great. And a quick question before you get into the demo. I know we do want to go there because that's the most important
yeah,
part of this, I think. How do you how do you manage the balance of like adding features and customizations that people want and then not overwhelming people? Because I hate
yeah,
too much
yeah,
flexibility and customization. But
yeah,
I'm curious, what are your filters for stuff like that or rules?
yeah. It's a really interesting question. Is um, So what we try to do is build a system that allows for like a high level like of customization, but doesn't get overly pigeonholed with building in like specific use cases. So to be often like to be honest, it's actually the hardest single part about building software is like trying to develop like a filter like that. And I
Yeah.
think one thing that's really helpful for me is like, I've kind of been in fitness, even though maybe not like working in software on the side of it for like 15 years. So I've seen a variety, I've just been able to be introduced to a variety of different like, approaches where, me and my brother were doing, reading maybe Muscle and Fitness or Dan John, Tony Jones Core back in high school. And then seeing, a lot of online fitness stuff, and then seeing trainers in person and big box gym chains and stuff like that. So it's oftentimes we get asked about like, hey, could you do this? And once you kind of understand the process of like, okay, like here's like what it takes to like to build software, and you've gone through a few reps to see like if you build in this direction and you build this specific use case, it may meet this customer's specific needs, but it's actually going to make things harder or more difficult
Yeah.
or block use cases for maybe 80% of your customers. So what you're trying to do is just like develop a filter and also like have a context and experience. And to be honest, like something like that, it just kind of gets developed over time. And by talking to your customers and always kind of questioning, you have to kind of fight the need for, wanting to please everyone.
Yeah.
Because if you do that, you're actually going to put yourself in a position where you're going to be hurting potentially 80% of your customer base sometimes. So the nice thing is that we've built a system that does have a lot of flexibility built within it and has the ability to scale while not kind of affecting like the core content. So it does have flexibility to kind of get personalized. But we've said no, like you have to learn how to say no.
Yeah.
And then you try to hopefully you're having a conversation, like you have the relationship where you're able to kind of explain why. And to be honest, like, most of our customers, like since they're business owners and they make those type of decisions all the time, like almost every single day, every single week, like, with their team or with their clients, they understand and they're willing to like, have those conversations. So it's easy to kind of focus on like, hey, like here's this very specific thing, but like that I need. But oftentimes, like maybe it's just like 1 to 5% like of like what you actually need, and we're focusing on delivering value to maybe like 80 to 90 to 5% of your needs. So we that's where we spend that time.
Great answer. Let's get to the workout. Show us as if you were training
Yeah,
me right now, Matt. What show us
yeah.
that view and how that goes.
Yeah, so you won't get like a perfect example here because the workflow that we often see is that I'm a trainer. I'm going to go into your client profile, and then I'll select a program that I'm going to enroll you into.
Got it.
And then you can select whether it's private, which just means just the training staff can view it, or shared. If it's shared, that will trigger an invitation email to your client to be able to create a password and download, access the program via mobile app if you're doing hybrid or online training. But for in-person training, step one, trainer comes in, enrolls a program, and then you see the full program with all of their workouts within it. So I'll switch over to just like another page. Let's see, I'll actually just pull it up. If you go to our landing page, you'll see the most common use case is if I'm a trainer using Strength Portal on the floor with my clients, it's a responsive web app. And the device that's most commonly used is our trainers will be using a tablet on the floor with their clients.
That'd be like an A5 tablet. Is that the kind of size, is it?
Yeah. So we see probably the two most commonly used tablets is like iPads, but also like Samsung, Galaxy Samsung tablets, which are a great tool.
Too small. I have the iPhone 13 mini, and it's so small. I mean, it's fine for like Magic the Gathering, but you know, it's would that be difficult to use your software on something like that?
So if you're using a mobile device, like we actually recommend to use our mobile apps, which are usable by the trainer as well. Okay. But this is interesting for a variety of reasons, is that if you're a trainer on the floor with a mobile device coaching your client, to be honest, it just doesn't look very professional. So 95% of the time, our workouts are tracked via tablet by our customers. And I think that actually makes us, like, if we looked at our data compared to like other users out there, other companies out there, other softwares, I think we might be very unique in that because we focus so much on the in-person training. And with in-person training, tablet is just a fantastic work device. If I see a trainer on the floor with a tablet versus a mobile device, one says, hey, like I may not be like paying attention to my client. And the other says, I'm focused and I'm giving you the best possible experience.
Which communicates the complete opposite thing. Yeah. I totally agree with that.
Yeah. So to kind of hone in on this picture that I'm displaying is that since it's a responsive web app, if you go back to the website and you click into a single session view, it may not make a lot of sense like on this laptop that I'm using. But if you do open up a tablet, it's a perfect screen size to fit your needs. On the left-hand side, you'll have like kind of the full workout session that's been laid out. On the right-hand side, you'll have the ability to pull in information that's relevant for your clients. Let me go back here. I think this would be a good workout to look into. The workout's not going to make any sense like at its face, but the reason I pull it up is this client profile for a demo account has a lot of interesting data. So I have the workout session on the left-hand side. I have the session title. I have workout sections, and then have the exercises within them. So you'll see exercise name. You have the ability to add as much notes as you want to, whether it's trainer facing or staff facing or like just helpful stuff to write for the client. And then you get into the exercise metrics, whether it's sets, reps, weight, and you can add the information that you want to. The default view is going to show one line, but if you do expand it, you'll see that you have the ability to track for multiple sets and reps and get as detailed as you want to, along with those additional metrics. So kettlebell, Romanian deadlift has sets, reps, weight as the default. But if you do care about an exercise and you want to track like time along with it, which is pretty common for your community, you do have the ability to add it and track it as well, along with additional notes. And probably the most interesting thing here is that once data starts to get built up over time and you select an exercise, not only do you have the ability to just kind of manage the exercises and make quick actions that you need to on the floor with your clients, such as deleting, supersetting, moving up and down, or just replacing an exercise right there, but you're also getting really interesting data that's been built up that's helpful for a trainer. So if I'm a trainer that I've done 5 sessions back to back, week after week, and a client A comes in and, I just can't remember for the life of me what weight I did last week. But with one click, you can pull in that information that was tracked and see when it was recorded, the reps, the weight that was associated with it for the most recently recorded for that exercise. So you kind of have an idea of like what to do for that client for that day. And you can also see the historical rep maxes for that client over time. So with that, with one click, whether it's trainer A or trainer B, this data is all being built up, and it's going to be helpful for your training team to be able to pull in and make the right decision for that client.
And you've got buttons there under the exercise that say superset, move up, move down. So let me see if I understood this correctly. So if that's on the fly, you wanted to do something like a post exhaust or a pre exhaust that exercise, you'd click superset or something like that. Is that right?
Exactly. So you can add in exercises to search in more. You can really structure it however you want. So whether it's like 1 and 2 turn into 1A, 1B, or if you want to do like a bigger set with 1A, 1B, 1C, you can program exactly what you need to kind of like give a clear picture of like what you're programming on the floor.
Like if you moved an exercise up or down, if you changed the order, but that was only for that workout, and you wanted to go back to the original order for the next workout, that wouldn't be an issue.
Correct.
Got it. So no, sorry, I interrupted you there. I was just curious.
No worries. Yeah, and the thing that's really interesting is like once again, this all looks really simple, but like all these actions, like if you're using pen and paper and spreadsheets, you just do it. So, we have to build like a system that's fast and responsive on the floor in a tablet experience, which is just not common.
And
we worked hard to do that.
The other issue is taking notes, right? This is probably one of the big challenges for you is if I want to make a note about a particular exercise or injury or something that happened on the fly, I can just write that in a little notes box next to so how easy is it to do that on the tablet? You have to type, right? You have to actually type it.
Yeah. So,
unless you've got one of those cool little pens and I don't know.
Yeah. So, and I'll kind of answer that by talking about the system a little bit first. Is we do have a few different ways you can take notes. So number one, you have like exercise specific descriptions that you can have for like, here's how we do things. Within the workout, you can also add like what we call exercise instructional notes for this client, for this exercise, for this day. Like here's like maybe how we want to like approach performing this exercise, or maybe if you want to write into RPE, rest period, tempo, etc. Or, just like take a note like really quickly, but it's only contextual for that session. You can add a note right here. And then we also have the ability to take what we call dynamic notes, which is, I think of it as like a lightweight Evernote, where I can create an exercise note that has a tag to this exercise to this client that's going to show up repeatedly across multiple programs. Every single type that program exercise is used for that client. So there's a few different contexts that are used there. For a tablet, one thing that we actually found when we went to the REC conference recently, and we saw some of our customers using it in person, is that tablet is interesting because like they do have keyboards that are, you can tap on a notes field, the keyboard pops up, you write it really quickly, and then you just close it and it goes back to the previous view. But we found out that, why it's great to, see your customers in person. Sometimes you learn things. You can actually, on an iPad and on a Android tablet, you can make the keyboard smaller and you can drag it into a different area so it doesn't take up the full screen size. Because the default is if you click into a notes field, it fills up like about a third of the screen. And it's kind of annoying, to be honest. Like it's just something that we always chat, like we're frustrated with. We actually looked into building and got pretty far with building a completely custom keyboard to try to like streamline that experience. And then recently we went and saw like some of our power users at Discover Strength, and they had solved the problem by themselves by just like minimizing the keyboard and floating it to a smaller area of the screen. So it can be always visible without seeing everything. And that's something I just didn't know about.
And do they report that that's faster than writing it, or just as it helps fill that gap?
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's not quite as fast, but is it, good enough and it's not going to be a distraction? We've tested it, we've watched it in person, and it doesn't appear to be a barrier. I think it's more kind of like you're just getting used to it, and at a certain point, you start to get like a little bit more efficient. And I think, and to be honest, like maybe before you were able to flip the keyboard, I was a little bit concerned about it. I thought it was a bit much of a friction, but with the ability to have the keyboard that's smaller, that floats, that's always there, to be honest, it's really fast and kind of a fantastic user experience. So I'm really happy that
that's great.
The people at Apple and Android built in that ability, because they kind of solved one of my biggest problems for me.
It's particularly important for us because we're all delivering really brief workouts, so we have to be really efficient with our time. Just aware of time, we need to wrap up, but any other parting thoughts you want to share before we just start wrapping this one up, Matt? And I'm happy to do a part 2 at some point, because there's so much more we haven't spoken about, obviously.
From like a platform standpoint, I think we've gone, really high level detail here. And to be honest, like most of this is usually pretty customer driven. Like we kind of just put like a default out there, but we want to like go where you go, and we have the ability to do that. So I don't think I have anything else to kind of get into the weeds on.
Scroll back down again, just show me that view of the workout program. I know you did this, but just to again say, what we've just been discussing is what it would look like when you're actually training the client. So you're looking at lists of exercises, you're looking at the various metrics that you care about, sets, reps, weight, time, whatever. And then it's just a very elegant system within which you can really, record and change things dynamically on the fly if needed, and which is what we need, because that's kind of one of the reasons why many of us haven't left pen and paper, because it's that flexibility. But it's clean looking. It looks really easy to use. It's a really nice user experience. So I'm really impressed. I think you sold me, Matt. I think we're going to probably move forward quite soon.
This was a podcast, but it was also, a customer demo.
That's it. 2 birds in one stone. You said you're bad at marketing. You've probably just reached an audience of 1,000 people plus, and definitely got a new customer. So what's the best way for people to find out about Strength Portal and give it a go?
So if you go to strengthportal.com, you can create a free trial. You can start using it. I usually recommend is create a free trial. Just go in there and start playing with it, but also schedule a call with us, which you will be prompted to do. You can just contact us. We have a nice tool that makes it easy for you to schedule with us at a time that's like best for you, just directly to our calendar. So go to our website, make an account, and schedule a call, and share with us like what you're currently doing, and who knows, maybe it might be a good fit.
Yeah, sounds good. And obviously all the pricing information is on the website. It's all very clear. Great. Thank you so much for your time. This has been really helpful. I really appreciate it. And for everyone listening and watching, to find the blog post for this episode and download the PDF transcript. And I do encourage you, if you were listening to this, to go to the actual blog post and check out the YouTube video so you can see the software in action. Please go to highintensitybusiness.com and search for episode 367. And until next time, thank you very much for listening and watching.